It is a nasty cycle. Stop being involved in it, please. Think very, very hard before you pre-order a game.
Forgive me, Father, for it hath been 42 days since my last pre-order.
If you have even the slightest doubt, for the love of God, wait. Please wait. You are doing more damage to yourself and to the industry than you can possibly realize.
Pre-orders. Pre-orders seem to be one of gaming's most talked about and maybe sometimes the most controversial issue. We've had people like Total Biscuit and Jim Sterling talk about how bad the practice can be. But I think as of late, particularly in 2015, we've seen while it's not a trend that spread across everyone, we have seen some better pre-order practices over the last year. And we'll talk about the pre-order bonuses of stuff that we can pre-order right now. So stuff that's happening in 2015, pre-orders for games from 2016. Now, I have to openly admit, I have pre-ordered Overwatch. I have pre-ordered the collector's edition of Overwatch. Now, there are two realms of which we can look at pre-orders. We can look at pre-ordering in the retail sense, so that's going into your local retail store and popping in a pre-order, or you can talk about pre-purchasing on Steam. So first off, I'm going to talk about retail pre-purchases. So lately, retail pre-purchasing in some cases has been relatively good. If we look at Fallout 4 recently, that released, its pre-order bonuses were actually pretty good. It was not in-game content, so there was no in-game content that was locked away from the game. It was rather extra physical benefits. So you get the Vault Tech poster, you get some extra nice little posters with your game. You got the 5-track CD, which I was personally disappointed in. I was hoping for some old-timey, timey-wimey stuff. And then we also had the Pip-Boy limited edition. And the limited edition of that one was the Pip-Boy. So the only way that you could have got that was via pre-order and securing your copy, because that was, of course, a limited copy. I think it's Jim Sterling who has said before that there isn't anything inherently wrong with pre-ordering like limited edition things, because those ones, there is a limited number. So you're going to have to pop down an order for it in order to secure it. And the big thing that comes with pre-ordering is that, well, why would you pre-order when it's mass available, when there is not going to be a lack of stock on the day, because gaming is quite expansive nowadays. But these collector's editions like the Pip-Boy and the out-of-game benefits, the posters, the soundtracks are extending into that. So with Overwatch, the collector's edition, the only exclusive pre-order bonus that you got from that was in-game cosmetic. And that's across all editions. So you get the Widowmaker Noir skin. But then we have the Origins edition, which comes with everything. You can buy that as a box copy. There's nothing locked behind any pre-order walls. And then there is the Collector's Edition. The Collector's Edition coming with the statue of Soldier 76, the art book, and the CD. Now that one coming in at about $190 in Australian currency can be quite expensive. And I think it was the Pip-Boy edition could be around about $200 to $300. And so what we see is one extra benefit of pre-ordering is seeing it as a bit of a pre-lay-buy. So this meaning that you can pop some money on the game beforehand and pay in increments of how you want to pay for it. So you don't have to dump $200 out of your account at one distinct point. You can spread that $200 across time. So you can spread that across some time to even out your economic benefits. So you can get paid fortnightly and pop $10 of whatever pay every fortnight until the game releases, so you can have it totally paid off. So in that sense, lay buying can make some economic sense in people not wanting to have this large amount of money. Now, granted, this kind of really does apply for limited editions, since they are very expensive. But even in Australia, games these days for some retailers come up to $80 to $90. But that's easily subverted with some of the stores that are selling around $60. But it's an interesting case when we're talking AUD prices. The other thing is how safe it is rather now to pre-order from retail. If you put down a $10 pre-order on a game, you can easily at any time cancel that pre-order. You can cancel that pre-order, get the money back, or pop it towards something else. So you don't have to, you're not locked into that game. Sure, you've already spent the money on it, but you cannot have the time to check whether the game is good or not before you go and pick it up. So on release day, when all reviews or all the port reports come out for PC versions, you check whether that game is good or not, whether or not it's going to be worth your money. And then it becomes a case of, well, you're going to be getting money back that you could have spent on something more worthwhile, rather than going forward. And there has been talks about the psychological manipulation with pre-ordering, that sense that if you pop money down for something, you're going to be more inclined to pick that up. You're going to be more inclined to pick it up in the long run because you've made that commitment. Part of what we should start be looking at is, sure, having a little bit of a commitment to the game, wanting to make sure that the game comes out well, engaging in the community because you have already spent some money on it. But making sure that you're also engaging in the game post-release, so you find out whether this would be worth your money, whether this is a good port, whether this is a good game. Because if the game releases, sure, you may have already popped that money down and you have a commitment to it, but if you check before you pick up your pre-order, you're going to be more inclined to find out if it's good or not. And then it even extends into the first week of release. You still have the ability with most titles to do a return. So if the game is not to your liking within the first week of release, then you can return it. And this can segue into the Steam area. As the latest case, not the latest case, Batman Arkham Knight had its release on Steam, and of course a lot of people probably pre-purchased that, pre-downloaded it, and then it turned out to be terrible. It turned out to be a terrible port across the PC, and not everybody hated it. The good thing now with Steam that was different a year ago is that the Steam refund system is a lot better. So now it is just as safe to pre-purchase something on Steam as it is to pre-order something in retail, because you can easily refund that money if the game is shit. And we saw that happen with Batman Arkham Knight, where it actually ended up costing the company money because of the Steam cut that got taken from the initial sale, and the company having to pay back on all the refunds. So some people began advocating pre-purchasing, for teaching the company a lesson. So if the game was shit, people have already paid for the money, they get the refunds, the company ends up having to pay more money to refund the title. And that might have been what led to Batman Arkham Knight going down off the Steam site, and then going back up again, and then offering pre-orders. It was a slippery slope. But looking at the upcoming pre-orders for games, there's Street Fighter V, which will be having some cosmetic battle costumes, and you also get beta access from a pre-order. And there's also a collector's edition. In terms of locked away content, cosmetic items are arguable whether they should be locked away or not. Personally, because there's the view that cosmetic items don't change the game that much, therefore it's not that big of a deal. So battle costumes for Street Fighter V, not really a big deal. The beta access, it would be good for someone to be able to try the game before they buy it. It's not the final version, but beta access gives you some stake in the game beforehand. And like we said earlier with Overwatch as well, Overwatch has had a beta running, which is giving people a lot of time to see the game from the people who have beta access. And it's kind of that interesting, if you've put money into a title already, or you're committing to that title via a pre-order, you are going to be a lot more committed to the community that's surrounding it, or community of developers. The Overwatch subreddit, while the beta's been running, has been alive with people talking about the payment models that are going to be coming out, the skins and future heroes and maps being free, different mechanics within the game, getting bug fixes. Everyone in that subreddit seems to want this game to succeed. And when Blizzard happily announced that future heroes and maps would be free, a lot of the community jumped on board and were happy with that. And it's probably the case that if the community wasn't there or wasn't advocating for it, it may or may not have been the case. But Blizzard seemed to be doing well in that space. Star Wars Battlefront, early access to a Jakku map. The map that probably... the Jakku map probably should have been in on release. It seems strange to hold it off for a couple of weeks after its release. I don't know whether it was not finished or just not ready for publishing. But the early access was there from December 1st for people who pre-ordered, but there was also a lot of box copies that still had the Jakku map, so it wasn't exclusively a pre-order. And you also got a double-sided poster. So there was it's another out of game benefit that can usually come from pre-orders, which kind of means if you spend your $30, you know you're going to get more than just the game. So with the Overwatch Collector's Edition, you're going to be getting the art book, the soundtrack, and the statue. And already that's justifying a lot of the money of putting it down. Rainbow Six Siege had beta access, or the early demo kind of beta access, gold weapon skins, which again another cosmetic thing, and there was the collector's edition, the Art of Siege edition that came with the Tactical Siege book, but nothing that was locking away game content, nothing that has been that seems out of line or out of place. Forza Motorsport 6 had the 10-year anniversary pack that came in pre-orders, but there's also a lot of box copies around, so that's not exclusively a pre-order thing. There were a few vehicles that were pre-order exclusives at different retail chains, which would make it hard if you're wanting to collect every single vehicle that the game has to offer, because you'd have to buy multiple copies from different places. Assassin's Creed Syndicate had bonus in-game content, like missions. That's when it starts getting bad. That's when you are locking content away from people who will not be able to get that game get the game content post-release. And then there's been Deus Ex. The new Deus Ex game had a terrible pre-order incentive when it first released, including cosmetic and in-game missions, which is kind of what I think the industry is wanting to shy away from, or what gamers are wanting to shy away from these days. But in general, there has been a lot of good pre-order stuff that's been out. Like it isn't as harsh as it used to be. There are now ways out of pre-ordering. You can pop your money down, spread your economic load, and very easily pull out at any time. You can see whether the game is bad before you pick it up. You have a day or two before you pick it up to find out if the game is bad or not. You can get posters, you get extra things like CDs, art books that you may not have been able to previously get. Whether they sell them separately is up to the company, but it's stuff that isn't in the game that people who buy it later won't feel left out with. And then there's collector's editions, the Pip-Boy edition, Overwatch collector's edition, that make a lot of sense to pop your name down because you're paying for like a Pip-Boy, you're paying for a Pip-Boy, or you're paying for a statue. But that is a part of the game purchase. So there's still a lot of hesitance around pre-ordering. And I think there has been some positive changes over the last year. So it'll be interesting to see what happens coming into 2016. See if we have a continual trend of going down this pathway, where we're going to stop locking away content behind pre-order walls. It might end up just being a cosmetic area where cosmetic items go behind the pre-order wall. But as a consumer, I would like to see more out-of-game pre-order content, like posters and things, so I can be engaged with the game in more ways than one. So it's extra content outside of the game that's not going to affect anyone buying it. It's like real-world cosmetics, I guess. Real-world cosmetics, we'll go with that one. Now, I'm interested to see what you guys think of pre-orders. Leave a comment down below. Do you still pre-order games? Are you totally against the practice? It'd be interesting to see the discussion that we're having now, coming to the end of 2015, after we've had a lot of good games, a lot of good pre-order stuff, a lot of bad pre-order stuff, and see whether this is going to be a trend that comes over into 2016. But until hopefully a next video, this is Tim, and I'll speak to you later.